Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the STEAM Forward podcast. As always, I'm your host, Savannah, and today our guest is a longtime alumni, not only of Gen 2050, but before they can join us for Gen 2050, which is middle school and high school, they also attend Freedom School, which is K through 5. He's also done that, and we've been wanting him on the podcast for a while now, and he was actually really upset with me on the first week of camp because he hasn't been invited on the podcast. But I must say, I've never met a student who is more booked and busy than our guest today by the name of Denzel. So please help me welcome Denzel Augustin.
Thank you all for having me here today. I'm so excited.
You are awesome. So one thing about Denzel is we call him Mr. President because he has future aspirations to be the president of the United States. And why is that?
Well, I remember that when I was a kid, I remember in kindergarten, I saw President Obama speak on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, and I just told my parents, I looked at the screen and I just told them, I want to be that. And they were like telling me, and it was like, wait, really? And I was just like, yeah, I want to do what he's doing. And they were just like, we support you. We love you for that. Just go ahead and chase it.
Yeah, we love that. And one thing about Denzel, he carries around, I don't know if you have it today, but you usually have. One thing I learned about him last summer in summer camp was that he carries around a Constitution. And so he has them in all different sizes. He has like a regular size one, a miniature size one. He even has one a pocket size. And why do you carry that around?
Honestly, it was around the time around sixth grade-ish when I got into U.S. history and that stuff. And as we were learning it more and more, and we were learning more of the Constitution, I started to become more fascinated with it.
Right.
By like seventh grade, when we got into civics, which is the more study of the law and the foundation of the country, I started to get more invested into the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And so it was around winter break at that time, I went to Barnes & Noble and I got, it was a large book. It was the first one I had ever gotten, a large version of the Constitution.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of other writings, such as inaugural addresses and other things like writings from Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, one thing that me and Denzel always connect on is history, and specifically U.S. history. And so, Denzel, why do you like history so much?
Honestly, it's the fact that there is always this saying. The saying is that, and I'm just going to say this to you guys. The saying is this: if we fail to learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it.
Right.
So I'm trying to make sure that I can be invested in history, so that way I can try to educate others so that we can try not to make any more failures that we've already made in the past.
Right. I agree. I love that. And Denzel, as I said, you're so booked and busy. So tell us about all the cool things that you've been doing. I know you have to step out because we're in dual enrollment and we're taking some classes. So what is our school life looking like? What is our after school life looking like?
School life, it's going pretty good. Socially, a lot of friends, and academically, it's all going pretty good, going straight with A's.
That's awesome. We expect nothing less, honestly. And what classes are we taking this summer?
This summer, I am taking a introduction into psychology course.
Love it. So we're just doing one class.
Just one class. Just to do a nice little dip in the water.
Right, of course. Okay, so Mr. Alumni, so tell us about your experience with Gen 2050.
Honestly, ever since I was in Freedom School, I've always wanted to be in Gen 2050. Like during Harambe in Freedom School, I would like always look off to the side. I would just see the Gen 2050 alumni just sitting over there, and I'm just like, okay, they've got some prominence. I'm gonna join them.
Yeah,
join them soon.
Yeah.
Eventually, when I got here, it was a welcoming environment. Unfortunately, I had gotten here around the time of COVID. I had gotten here around 2020. That's when everything was in lockdown. That's when we were like all spraying ourselves with Lysol just to make sure everything was clean.
The gloves, the masks, all that stuff. Yeah.
The social distancing. It was a bit of a hurt feeling as the fact that we couldn't all as actually just be close because of the fact of the virus. But we made do with what we had.
Right.
In the free times, we would be able to watch Disney Plus, and we'd watch The Proud Family. It was all nice.
Oh, with Mr. Jamario?
Yep.
A soft plug for Mr. Jamario. Woo woo. So what is something that Gen 2050 has taught you?
It's taught me a lot more about the environment around me. It's taught me a lot more about the environment, the planet, how we can take care of it, how we can nurture it, and how we have been destroyed. And how on the fact is that even though as of right now, as we speak, there are dozens of things that are happening around that are now destroying the planet.
Right.
As Mr. Fred had said this morning, we've hit the hottest day record 3 consecutive times.
Yeah.
So basically in the calculation, we've broken that record 4 times now.
Yeah.
We've broken it 4 times.
Yeah. Last week, I think it was like all 3 days were last week. Yeah. And I think that with that is that because we're also taught mindfulness, right, is that we're able to sit and think about like, okay, so it may not seem that big, but the little things that I actually contribute to all these environmental issues.
It all snowballs into a giant it just snowballs into like a giant effect.
Absolutely. And so what is one thing that you look forward to when you come to Gen 2050? Because you're currently enrolled, we're in summer camp. So what's one thing that you've been really looking forward to?
The one thing I'm always looking forward to is to learn something new, to always learn something new. Because it's not, because the thing is this, everyone learns something new every day. All right. There is no person that's smarter than you. There is no person that is not smarter. All right. Everyone learns things every day.
Right.
So that's what I'm always excited for.
We love that. We love that. You heard it here. Denzel is a student who's excited to learn something new every single day. So Denzel, what have you enjoyed at the C modules? Were you able to take time to be a part, or were you in class?
I believe I was in class, but the last thing I remember was that I joined in while you guys were in the chapel. You guys were doing the it was a project where you guys had boxes of packing peanuts, I had bins of packing peanuts, and you had things submerged in the packing peanuts.
Yeah.
I think it was you guys were doing trace fishing, as you guys were sticking in rulers within each of the quadrants.
Yeah. Actually, what they were doing is that the students conducted their own ocean floor. Oh. And so they built things on the ocean floor. And so with the packing peanuts, it was to signify the water, and that you can't necessarily see everything that's on the ocean floor. So there's a science called hydrography or hydrography. And so the people that study that are able to know the different levels of the sea and what's on the floor and things like that. I wish you were able to do, but
I really wish I was.
I know, because tomorrow, guess what they're doing?
They're dissecting the lemon.
Yes, they are. Well, then, can you let us know what your future plans are and what you are looking forward to with this upcoming school year?
All right. So, future plans. Are we talking academic-wise and school-wise, or are we talking as in career-wise?
How about we do it all?
All right. So, of course, starting off with high school, I proceed to ace all my classes to make sure I get all A's, to make sure I bring up my GPA. Then afterwards, junior year, do the same thing. Senior year, same thing. I make sure I also take AP classes so I can get college credit.
Right.
And then I could also get my AA degree.
Can I give you a little insight to AP classes?
Yep.
As somebody that has been in high school and took AP classes, I would say if you're with dual enrollment, stick with that. The thing about AP classes is that I think that they're great. I think they're fabulous. Again, you get a free college class as long as you pass the exam.
Yes.
But the reality is that AP classes are really 10 times harder than a regular traditional college class. And I think maybe they set it up that way so you're not shocked when you go to college. But since you're in dual enrollment, if you're in dual enrollment, I encourage you to stick with that. Then maybe the AP class. And if you do an AP class, take maybe 1 or 2, but don't do a whole course load.
Understood. There are people
they're intense.
There are people in my school who've said, I'm taking about 5 AP classes this year.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just feeling sorry for them. I'm just in my mind, I'm like, do you not know the mental stress I've already dealt with 1.
Yes. I only did 1 every single semester. That's all I could do.
I'm only going to be doing 2 next year. I'm only going to be two.
And which subjects?
In it was AP Euro for social studies.
Love that.
And I believe it was AP chemistry.
Oof. Yeah, I did AP biology and AP psychology and AP world history. APUSH is what they called it. Okay. And then so after we graduate high school.
With the I go to college, I seek higher education in college and university.
Mm-hmm.
Really preferably my dream college has always been one of the Ivy Leagues, Harvard mainly.
We love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I go into political science, and I also go into law.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, I start making a practice of my degrees. I start going into law firms and becoming an attorney, or I can go into the political field,
right,
and start to work for politicians. Eventually, become a politician myself, and then gear up to go into the local level of politics.
Yeah.
And afterwards, move on to state level and then federal level, which then finally I can then go for the bid for the presidency. Yeah.
I love that. So when we look at the world, and this is just to get your brain as a person that's becoming a sophomore in high school, as you look at the world and you're in tune with the issues around you, let's say that you were bidding for your presidential election next year. What would be your main focus on the change you would want to see in the world?
On the change that I want to see in the world. This is a big question. This is a big ask. Because there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we need to change.
Absolutely.
A lot of things that we need to change, like healthcare issues, environmental issues. As of now, our country's really just focusing mainly on the social issues, which I can understand are just as important. But we're putting, I feel, and this is just in my honest opinion, we're putting a little bit too much on the social issues right now. We're putting a bit too much on what's socially going on around us in our environments, when we actually could be focusing on like other issues, such as like revitalizing healthcare so that our medical bills aren't so high.
Yeah.
Or the environment, so then that way we could lower our carbon emissions.
Yeah.
And also be in line with the Paris Agreement.
Right. Yeah, because 2030 is literally around the corner.
It is about 7 years away.
And there's a lot of work that still needs to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
For the fact that we've hit about like the world's the hottest day record like 3 times in a row, there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Absolutely. Well, we love that. So we know in like 2050, we're voting for Denzel Augustin for president in 2050, right? So we like to end the podcast with the word of the day. And so, Denzel, what would be your word?
My word would be wisdom.
And why is that?
The thing is this. Wisdom is defined as having high experience or having a high knowledge of something, basically the ability of being wise. In my own belief, in my own opinion, when we as people, we're not always wise. We're not always wise people. There are people that will know some things, but they won't know other things.
Right.
So to a certain sense and to a certain degree, we all are wise. We are all able to learn from someone. We're all able to learn from each other.
It's just the willingness to want to.
It's just the willingness. That's the thing.
Right.
As long as you make the effort to at least learn, then you too can be wise as well.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us and taking some time out of your day to come up to the podcast room and do the Steam Forward podcast.
Oh, of course. It's my pleasure.
Well, thank you so much. And as always, there are 2 sponsors that we like to thank, and that is Trinity Church and the Children's Trust. And don't forget, there are 3 ways in which you can listen or watch this podcast. If you like to watch, just follow us on YouTube. If you'd like to listen, follow us on Apple and Spotify. And remember, this is the Steam Forward podcast. See you next week.
Steam